It's Monday, May 16th at 5:32 p.m. and I call this special workshop session of the Lewisville City Council and Youth Action Council to order. We have a quorum. All right, first up on the agenda is review of the 2021-22 Youth Action Council Program and Community Project and discussion of community issues raised by the YAC members.
But the Youth Action Council is extremely excited to present to you tonight to talk a little bit about a review of their year. But before they start, the first thing I want to do is just thank you for your support. I always had the mayor or a council member at all of our meetings, and so it means a lot that you're making yourselves available to our students. So thank you for your support. It's a good program. Our students, we got a great group of students this year. They're very involved. I don't know how they have time to do the Youth Action Council as well with their busy schedules, but they do. So they're very involved learning about our city, but they're also, as they'll talk to you, they had an annual project that they did, and that left their fingerprint on the city to help the community. So they'll talk a little bit about that. And speaking about the project, so I wanted to thank Ashley Farion. She's our neighborhood services coordinator, as well as our parks department. They played a huge role in helping us with that annual project. We couldn't have done it without them. So special thanks to them. So tonight, the YAC will be covering a few items, the review of this year's YAC program. They'll talk about the project that they completed. And then the last, I'd like to talk about some current issues and concerns amongst the youth in the community. And then we'll have a little bit of time afterwards for some of your questions. So with that, I will pass it over to Joshua Park.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us this evening, giving us the opportunity to present our 2021-2022 Youth Action Council Review. My name is Joshua Park, and today I will be joined by two of our members, Trang Vo and Sonika Harish, and they will be helping me present our year in review. As you can see, along with me and my two members, Trang and Sonika, we have a lot of members comprised of over 15 different members from the 15 different schools. So because of the wide range of age group that we have, it gives us so much room for development, and it gives us so many people that we can continue to keep inviting back. Our first meeting that we had with the Youth Action Council was at the Public Safety. It was Public Safety Training Center. And this is where students had the opportunity to engage with first-hand responders and understand how we can get involved and how we can kind of train ourselves. This is where we got to do a lot of hands-on activities. This is where we got to learn about how to deal with safety equipment and how to properly handle these situations. The next meeting that we had was the Old Town Tour, which was my favorite. It was led by Mr. James, and he took us around downtown Lewisville, and he kind of explained like the history of what went into creating our city. It was really cool because I thought the weather was also really nice, and it was just around the time of Christmas, so we got to see all the decorations, and we got to see all of downtown in its one of its highest potentials. We also got to learn about how the city can continue developing. We also got to learn about little movie secrets and like little action figures that are hidden around the city. Next was the Lewisville Library, which was also combined with the Hive. And the Lewisville Library was really interesting to tour because they have something that's so unique to Lewisville and just Lewisville only, which is the Hive location. And the Hive location, it has so many developed equipment, so much amazingness, I guess. It has so many 3D printers, a lot of pin makers. It's just somewhere where individual members can express their creativity. One of our members in the presentation, Elliot, is actually messing with the 3D printer, and he got to understand how a 3D printer works, how he can print something he wants, and how he can apply this equipment to his school projects, and how he can use it to better himself. Next was our wastewater and water treatment plant, which was one of our most recent meetings. This is where we got to tour the wastewater and water treatment plants, and we got to see how our waste is contributing to our city. This was one of the more informational meetings that we got because we got to understand how we contribute and how we can prevent a lot of the issues from occurring. It was really fun because we got to see what the kayak will actually connect to, which was our next meeting, which was at Lila. I thought Lila was a really cool meeting to take part in also, because it shows that how there's such a green space involved in such a big metroplex like Lewisville. So a lot of our members actually did not know Lila existed, but after touring Lila, we got to understand the characteristics that it contributes and how we can benefit from such an amazing place. Many of our members were satisfied with their Youth Action Council membership, and a lot of them were mentioned that they would be willing to return. Many people enjoyed the animal shelter and the public safety training, and a lot of the people wanted to hear more about the City Hall, how it works, and how we can continue getting involved as the youth. Along with our meetings and our involvement in the Youth Action Council, we were also building something known as the Little Free Pantry, which was something that we could stock and something that the council helped stock and provide food and toiletries for people who are not as fortunate. Thank you.
Hello. To add on to the Little Free Pantry, I'm going to go through the process of how we chose this project. Each year, the city presents project ideas to Youth Action Council, and then we choose a project to work on throughout the year. So this year, we were presented with several different projects by the city departments. One option was the Free Little Pantry or Free Little Library, but as a group, we decided that we wanted to move forward with the free little pantries, since we do have a couple free libraries around in Lewisville, but not as many little free pantries. With the help of neighborhood services, we chose 2 parks where the pantries would be. So those locations were Wayne Frady in Old Town and in Central Park. So our 2 pantries are in those locations, as seen in the pictures. That is the Wayne Frady location. And then the process of creation. Neighborhood services use grant money to purchase 2 little free pantries for us to decorate, and they also provided paint and supplies for us to do that. So we had one meeting dedicated to decorating the pantries, and a meeting before that, we went to the library, and we were able to use the makerspace, the Hive makerspace, to put labels on our pantries that said the Youth Action Council. So that's a little thing on there that we used to decorate with. And then we also held 2 food drives to collect items to fill the pantries. One food drive was held at Lewisville High School, and the other was held at City Hall. We were able to collect enough donations to fill both pantries and still have quite a bit left over. So the idea is for these people in the community will not only take items out of the pantries, but also put things in there as well. So neighborhood services will be monitoring both pantries to make sure that they stay stocked, which the pantry at Wayne Frady was actually checked about a week after we filled it, and it was empty, so we believe it has already made a huge impact on our community and will be a big success within the future within our community.
So as part of the Youth Action Council, we were given a unique perspective on the issues and concerns that were surrounding our city's youth, and we have 4 of them that we feel that the city might be able to give their input into and help resolve within our teens and the things that us students have seen. So the first one is the dropout rate. Risk of dropout primarily affects teens from 7th to 12th grade, and whether it was because of the pandemic, school difficulties, or external circumstances, 36.8% of students in LISD were considered at risk of dropping out of school based on state-defined criteria in the past school year. And so we see that these students are considered, 1, at risk because they're considered economically disadvantaged or because of limited English proficiency. And we feel that in order to allow students the opportunity to succeed and graduate high school, the city may find it important to invest in student-centered models of education and adopt funding programs that address the educational concerns of students living in poverty, students with disabilities, or students with limited English proficiency, so that every student is given a chance to succeed and graduate high school. The second one is food insecurity. Now, we address this as the Youth Action Council through our little food pantry, but several Denton County residents are struggling with hunger and food insecurity, and more than half don't even qualify for government assistance. And so in school, students are offered breakfasts and lunches for free, especially during the pandemic years, but a lot of times the responsibility of buying food and putting food on the table for their families falls upon the teen and the student that's also juggling work and school as well. And so it becomes very difficult to balance both, and many find themselves sacrificing academic and educational opportunities in order to essentially survive and let their family eat. And so what can the city do to help? We see that continuing the upkeep of initiatives like our Yak Little Food Pantry, and also other food banks, along with spreading awareness and information to residents about where they can find nutritious food to eat and where they can find other necessity that they may need, toiletries, and other things like that. Because a lot of times people might not know that there is a way for them to acquire what they need, and it's important that we as a city make sure that they know where they can get these things. And so that in order to do that, making sure that teens and children are able to focus on just being children and going to school and learning rather than constantly worrying about having a secure food source. The third thing is mental health, a rising concern of Lewisville teens, especially as we're navigating adolescence along with the global pandemic. It has really taken a toll on our mental health, and a lot of teens in Louisville may not have the support they need at home to continue to perform at the standards that are needed of them. They might not have someone to talk to at home, or may not feel comfortable in their school. And so we feel that the city can help by ensuring affordable and accessible forums for mental health help, especially on-campus counselors and community initiatives for inexpensive therapy, because many times students in need may not have the funds available to them to acquire therapy and mental health help. And also expanding initiatives to spread mental health awareness throughout the school, throughout the city, whether that is, encouraging kids to talk about their mental health concerns, reach out to the city or to someone at their school, wherever that they are able to have a forum for navigating their mental health concerns is very, very important, especially during the teen years. And finally, leisure activities is also very, very important and may benefit Lewisville teens, especially in regards to dropout rates and mental health concerns. So by expanding the availability of recreational activities that cater to Lewisville teens, this may help address other issues that we have, and also include fun and engaging activities for the rest of the residents to also partake in. And so what can the city do to help? We may be able to expand city parks to ensure recreational sports participation, basketball courts, soccer goals, volleyball nets, things like that may allow people to recreationally play sports and have a good time, outside of an organized sports, team. And also include opportunities for affordable and unique food options, aesthetic structures, scenic trails, or other activities like festivals and things like that that cater to the recreational activities that teens love, and that might help address these issues like mental health and allow for citizens to have fun and not worry about these other problems that we can address. So that concludes our YAC review for the 2021-2022 year. We'd like to open it up to the council and ask if anyone has any questions that we would like to answer.
Speaker on.
There we go.
So my question for our underclassmen, our juniors and sophomores, How many of you guys, by show of hands, would be willing to come back next year and join up?
Oh, awesome.
Awesome. So we did a good job this year.
Council, any questions? Oh, I want to thank all of the students, and I'm sure everybody up here at the dais. You guys, I know how busy y'all are, and to be able to carve out time to get to know your city and to give us feedback, I think is critically important. You can't build community if you don't get engagement. And the key here is, you guys are going to go and you're going to do some wonderful things. And we hope that you bring some of those great ideas back to help us grow our city and help it continue to be a great place for kids to grow up, for people to do whatever it is they do in a safe community. So we appreciate the heads up on issues that are key to you. I will tell you that one of the challenges we always have is just getting engagement, getting people involved. And so it's critically important that we hear from you so that we know what kinds of things would get you involved, right? As opposed to just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping it'll stick. So I thank you for that. Is there anybody else on council or anything any of you would like to add to the conversation today?
I'll just say this. I think, appreciate the fact you all stepped up for this program. I mean, I can think back when I was in high school. I don't think I could have gotten up and done a speech like you guys just did. So you're all very well spoken for your age. So congratulations on that for sure.
Well, I was going to say something very similar to what Will and Mayor have already said, but just to piggyback on that, I only got to attend one of your meetings, and it was when you were brainstorming about what your project was going to be and how you were going to do the gathering of the food, how you were going to get people to donate food, and I was just exceedingly impressed with the entire group and the robust conversation that was ongoing. And I thought, these kids are really amazing. I really hope that they want to come back to Louisville and be lifelong residents of Louisville, and that you'll want to get engaged and maybe sit in one of these seats one day as well, and help guide our community into the future. So very well done. It was very fun to watch you all grow, and hope to see some of you back next year. And to any graduating seniors, congratulations.
I just want to say thank you. I was very impressed with the group, and I met y'all I got to do the wastewater with you. I not only want to thank you for stepping up, but stepping out and standing up for our city. And I hope that you do make that a lifelong campaign of yours. Your mantra is to always represent and stand up and be heard. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad that those of y'all that are coming back, that bring a friend or two or three. Do it. Thank you.
I'd just like to say that, first of all, I apologize for being late. I went to the third floor. But anyway, but I too want to add my thanks for all of you participating. And as I've told a lot of people, every time I meet with you and other similar groups of students and young people, I am continually impressed, and gives me confidence in the future. So thank you all.
Anything y'all would like to add before we close this out? Go right ahead. There it is.
Hello, my name is Suchi. I'm a sophomore at Lewisville High School Harmon, and I just want to say thank you so much for the support for the Youth Action Council. I mean, I think it's super important that there's a student leadership in the city, so city staff can get input from teens and people from the community. So I just want to say thank you so much.
Anyone else? All right, with that, there is no additional business to be had, so I am calling this meeting adjourned.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Agenda items and consent agenda items. Council, if you would, please check your agendas. Item C1, of course, we've got the invocation and the pledges, Councilmember Meredith and Councilmember Kate. We have the canvass of the election. Councilmember Green will not be able to be here this evening, so she's going to be sworn in tomorrow morning. So that's part of the juggling here tonight. We will have the certificate of elections for Councilmember Kelly and Councilmember Jones. Item D is going to be presentation for certificates of appreciation for the teen court seniors. And the judge will be helping with that. Item E, public hearing. 1. Zone change, Old Town mixed use and office district to public use. That's the facility that we purchased in Level. We're gonna do temporary parking. I was talking with the city manager earlier about this one. We can always move it to a different zoning at a later date. So, but parking is a great public use for that space right now. E2, public hearing, special use permit for automobile service facility. Any questions or comments on that one?
That's an existing facility, right?
Correct.
Who was in there before?
Minus, yeah.
Oh, that's right, minus, yeah.
And it's got a few requests. I don't see any opposition. I think staff recommended that we want to go ahead and approve it.
That's cool. And the neighbors all gave support as well. Okay, good.
Super. Item 3, public hearing, public input for the Community Development Block Grant Consolidated Plan. So that's just to get those public hearings scheduled. Item F, visitor citizen. Item G, consent agenda. G4. G5. Consent agenda. G6. Item G7. Item G8. Item G9. Item G10. And talking to the city manager, these are 9 and 10 are both, we don't have a final on there, but we have the parameters. So this just gets it done between now and the next council meeting. So we can move with all alacrity. Item H, 11. H12. Item H13. Item I, reports. Councilmember Jones, I'm going to start with you on that one, if you don't mind. That way, our newly elected Mr. Kelly can kind of see and he can be pinch hitter if he wants to add anything. So what we typically do is items of community interest. And I kind of rotate it through the council. There's no rhyme or reason why I do it the way I do it. Keeps people on their toes, I guess.
No problem. No problem.
So we gotta skip Councilman Green at the end.
Yeah, so that's part of the fun. And she won't be here tonight, so that completely throws me off. So that'll be item I. Closed session, city manager, do we have anything for closed session other than selection of the mayor pro tem and deputy mayor pro tem? Okay. All right. There's no further comments on the agenda. We're going to move to workshop item B, discussion of sustainability action plan implementation. We have our neighborhood services and sustainability manager, Ms. Mindy White, available to present. Mindy, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I'm excited to get to chat with you about this tonight. It's been a little bit since I've gotten to come and update you, so I'm excited to give you a little bit of a snapshot of where we are so far and what we've selected as our first year goals for the plan. I've provided you with a printed copy of the plan at each one of your stations. I fully acknowledge the irony of having a printed copy of a sustainability plan. But sometimes it helps to be able to look through it, and as we go through, you can delve a little bit deeper into the different focus areas and some of the items in the plan, should you like to, and I have presented that with you. So let's get started. So as a reminder, when we talk about sustainability in Louisville, we go back to what we said originally in our 2025 vision plan about sustainability, meaning that our limited resources are used efficiently to provide a desirable quality of life and business climate for today's residents and future generations as well. But really, what does that mean? This is more of a holistic view of what it means to be a sustainable community. And it's a community that thinks holistically, that thrives, and that considers all of these different elements. If you recall in the past when I've talked to you, I've talked about the traditional elements of the three-legged stool model of sustainability. That's where you're considering the human piece, the financial piece, and the environmental piece, and you hope for them all to be in balance. And this is just an expansion of that. All of these different pieces all tie back into that idea of how does it relate to our humans that live here and work here and play here? How are we being good environmental and financial stewards with the community? So with that in mind, just a quick review of our 8 focus areas. And again, these were determined through extensive community feedback and stakeholder engagement, both with our city staff and with residents and businesses out in the community. These were the elements that kept rising to the top as priorities for our community. And you'll note that the plan was adopted in May of 2021, and we've been moving forward with advancing different strategies under these focus areas since then. And that's what I wanted to update you on tonight, is our progress so far and what we're focusing on in this first full year of the plan. So when we look at the plan as a whole, there's a number of different strategies that cross a number of different departments. So how did we want to weigh out what to tackle first? We broke the plan up into years 1 through 4, and then an ongoing strategy, meaning that we'll keep doing it over multiple years. That might be something like our Clean Fleet Gold designation that we've had through the COG. That's something that we do multiple times. We aren't going to do it 1 year and then we're done and that's all we want. It's something that we're going to strive for over multiple years. And then year 5 is set aside for delays that are inevitable, or to also give us kind of a jump start of planning where we want to go over the next 5 years. And how we broke up these priorities of what fell in which year was based on a number of different criteria. Which projects are already underway? Which projects are time sensitive? Is there a funding impact or a grant that's tied to it? Which ones are highest impact for the community and for our organization? And then looking at what other departments or city plans are already in place, how can we make sure that it overlaps in a way that makes sense so that our timelines match with these other initiatives that we already have? And then if there's budget implications that are there, we know that there's limited funding or something on the horizon that can help us kind of plan ahead for that as well. And then lastly, the council priorities that were identified at retreat. There's a lot of overlap in some of what y'all prioritized and you found valuable and what we hope to achieve in this first year. And so again, some of these are multi-year or ongoing. We're going to do it every year. Other strategies, we have to have something that happens first before we can get to the next strategy, so it's foundational. For instance, you may have to have a policy that's developed before you can then go to the next stage of adopting a new program. And then some strategies are going to be owned or driven by a particular department, and so it's going to depend on what that department's timeline is before we can get to that strategy. An example of this would be Stacy's Parks Department and how they're going through the Healthy Infrastructure Plan development currently. That timeline is owned by Parks and not by me, so taking that into account as we're developing our strategy priorities. So this is a quick snapshot of the year 1 priorities that we have identified. This is not all-encompassing in terms of these are the only things that we are doing this year. This is things that are above or have not already yet been started that we are really focusing on striving and stretching towards. There's other things that we're doing this year, including the Healthy Infrastructure Plan, the Complete Streets Update. There's other initiatives that fall under sustainability, but we're not highlighting them tonight. And I'll go through each one of these on the following slides in a little bit more detail. So the first one, we'd like to adopt a revised mowing ordinance that's going to address no-mower areas in public and in residential places. So in 2019, you may recall we adopted the Denton County Greenbelt Plan, and this gave us some strategies and best practices on how we can manage these areas in our community, particularly around streams and waterways. And there's some best practices in there that we can draw from when we're looking at updating our mowing ordinance, which as it currently is written does not really allow us to be innovative and address some of these new practices. Excuse me. We'd also like to allow for pollinator prairies. We've done a lot of great work with KLB and with parks currently on that. And we're looking at also creating a Pollinator Yard program that could be a pilot program. We've been working with Stacy and her team, Keep Louisville Beautiful, the Native Plant Society, and also the Master Naturalist on what this might look like and how we can feasibly implement this in the community in a way that makes sense both for staff and for our residents.
Well, I wanted to add one more thing. So this won't be the last time that you would see this. So this is basically giving direction to staff. Yes, these are priorities we want you to work on, but of course an ordinance would come back. We would have a workshop specifically on this item so that it's right sized for our community. So obviously some people are going to be concerned about having wild areas, you know, maybe in their next door neighbor's yard. What is the right size that we're, you know, achieving a more pollinator-friendly ordinance, but at the same time keeping a certain level of maintenance in the neighborhood as well. But y'all will all get to see that.
And that's true for all of the following strategies that we'll see too. It's just kind of a little sampling to give you a taste test of what we're looking at. We'll take a deeper dive as we go, and we'll be bringing some of those back to you as directed with additional information as well. So including sustainability design elements into our new facilities and our upgrades to existing facilities. This is one of our most impactful ways that we have to make a difference here locally with what we're doing as we do our business. There's a list here of some examples of facilities that represent excellent examples to integrate these sustainability elements either into the brand new design or into the upgrades of those facilities. And what we are proposing is that prior to the final design phase, we provide council with a report that shows what our sustainability upgrade options might be for that facility, also to our capital improvement program projects as well. And what this would show you is if we chose to make these improvements, here's the cost that would be at play there. Some of the examples of that might be the use of natural lighting, water and energy efficiency fixtures and upgrades, integration of pervious parking on those sites. So just to give you a quick sampling of what I mean by some of these upgrades. And when we give you this report, part of what that would include is the return on investment. What is the upfront cost versus what is the benefit we expect to see over time, and how long would that time period be before we would expect to see our cost recouped through the savings with those upgrades.
And this would definitely be moving forward. So for example, like Hedrick House and Fred Herring Rec Center, those designs are done. We're already like in the throes of those, so we wouldn't be bringing back a report for those, but it's perspective. So like the public safety complex and those types of projects. This is very similar to what we've done on our Complete Streets policy that we're going to be bringing to council that you guys have given us a thumbs up on, which is basically saying, you know, our intent is to do a complete street project, but there may be times where we have to, you know, roll that back, but we will make a report to council with regard to those changes, and then you guys can have the opportunity to question those.
Next is developing our micromobility policy for the city. You may have noticed that we have some e-scooters that have popped up in various places around town that kind of spur this idea of how can we bring this in the right way, and how can we do it in a way that benefits our entrepreneurs that are bringing in these options, and also benefits our visitors and our residents and our business owners in the community where these are stationed. This is something that when done the right way can be a very successful element in the community. Micromobility offers transportation options that help us offset our emissions in the community. It allows people to get around on a small scale in a way that gets you out of a car. And it also creates a tourist draw in areas like Old Town, where you can have a fun way for people that are visiting to get around, maybe from the A train station up to Old Town. So there's lots of options there of what this could look like. We're at the beginning of those conversations. I know Parks has had some conversations with this particular group that is visiting Lewisville currently. So there's lots of opportunities here for us to delve into this and do it the right way here in our community. displaying educational signage on our green infrastructure installations. So there's been lots of talk about green infrastructure with our Complete Streets program, with some of our building designs, with the Denton County Greenbelt Plan. A lot of these elements talk about green infrastructure. What does that mean? What are the benefits? In a Complete Streets example, for instance, there may be plants there may be filtration there that's going on, and having a little sign with like a QR code is a really great way for people to be able to look that up and learn more about it, learn what the plants are. Maybe they want to plant that at home. Just really kind of takes the next steps. So it's an option for us to provide a passive way for people to learn more about these choices that we're making in our infrastructure installations. This one is a little bit of a stretch goal, but it's something that we're seeing with some of our partner community or our neighboring communities partnering with these organizations. Currently, Carrollton, Corinth, Farmers Branch, Addison are all partnering with this nonprofit who is providing what is called a solar purchasing co-op, where it's just like a bulk purchase, where a bunch of residents that are interested in solar can sign up. They buy it cooperatively, they get a better price. The contractors are vetted by this nonprofit, so there's a higher level of confidence in the work that they're doing. They work with the building inspection at the home city so that it's not overburdening them. There's a lot of economies of scale there. So it's an interesting process that could potentially benefit our residents with low impact to us because there's no cost for the city to be involved. I would love to speak more in depth about it at a later time to give you more details, but I think it's something that could really benefit our residents currently. The next one is something we spoke about at the last retreat, is how can we increase our composting and organics collections options for our residents. This supports our local sustainability goals. It gives residents an option to divert their organic waste from the landfill. I think it's particularly appealing in our community where we have so many apartment homes where people may not have the ability to compost on their own. This gives them an option. How it works, this third party provides a bucket like you see in the middle picture, and bi-weekly they switch out the full bucket with a clean bucket, and then they compost it on their own space. The compost is then provided to community gardens in that partner community. There's several public-private partnerships that are working with Turn currently. Denton and Frisco are two examples. We'd also like to look at, if this is a successful venture, if it's something that our residents are interested in, how could we expand that in the future? Is it something that we could add on to our waste contract? Is there some other way that might look? So taking a deeper dive into what that data looks like and what the options are in the future as well. And then pursuing some grants to help us fund sustainability initiatives. This is the perfect time right now to seek external funding to touch on some of these sustainability goals. There's a lot of money that's coming down from the federal government in terms of the infrastructure funding, the bipartisan infrastructure bill. There's funding from the Department of Energy, Department of Transportation, lots of state funding, some of which is routed through the federal government. And then foundational support through organizations like Partners for Places. So there's lots of opportunities if we're creative on how we can stack funding and meet some of our goals without being out of pocket for those. And then this is something that our community relations and tourism staff has been working on. It's how can we have more green events? How can we come up with a policy that has some pieces in place that help us be more sustainable and green with our special events. We've been talking about what that might look like, including recycling, sorting, making sure it's not contaminated, making sure that there's organic collection opportunities, compostable cutlery and food service items. So lots of different elements that we can fold in depending on the size of event. But that's something that James's team with CRT is currently working on, kind of coming together with what that policy might look like. So with these in mind, I would be interested to hear any thoughts you have on the targeted projects we've identified for year one, and if there's any additional initiatives that you would like to focus on moving forward.
I got a couple of comments. So the pervious parking you mentioned, I've kind of dealt with that a little bit. I think that's going to be an analysis, kind of the costs on that is almost sometimes higher than concrete. So it's something to take a look at. The solar, I guess when we're looking at the solar, I like that idea, but what about hail damage? How does that work into the whole play? Does that go on the homeowner's insurance? Is that part of the deal? Be some things I would want to know. So, thought about that for our house, but don't like the hail damage part of it. The composting barrels, is there any kind of program where we could get composted barrels to the residents just that have houses? Now, we have one, we've had one for years, but is that something that could be along with the buckets that?
So like having, like doing some type of grant of some sort to allow?
Well, to offer people who want one, that can come in, we save a ton just by the one we have.
Folding that into like the water,
I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Yep, like we have the
rain barrel
rain barrel
collection.
collection.
And Keep Lewisville Beautiful has been partnering, at least before COVID, with Keep Flower Mound Beautiful at a master composter class, and I can see it folding together very nicely with something like that as well.
I like the bucket idea, that's pretty good, because, we get a food service every week that brings food, they bring you a box, and then you put your box and empty box back out, and they bring you another box, so I could see how that could work very well with that.
Council members?
The pollinator gardens. How are we gonna keep that under control? I could see now people going nuts because the next door neighbors have 12-foot high grass, and they may have a couple of wildflowers in there, and that's it.
I think the key to that, there's several elements that are really critical. Signage is important, that shows that this is a pollinator area that's been improved. Typically having some sort of border is very clearly, this isn't just wild lawn, it's intentional. And then we have discussed this, and Stacy, if you want to hop in and add anything, please feel free, about partnering with some of our local experts that are plant experts in the region so that we have that expertise that can come in and say, yes, this is acceptable and kind of provides that volunteer element that helps us keep it under control as well.
I think we'll have, in addition to that, to be part of that program, you would have had to go through some educational workshops. So you say, this is how you do it, this is how you do it right, this is what needs to be included, and then verifying that with our experts. And then working with Chris and his team to have them on a list so that people know that they're.
Right, so maybe like certified or something, we would find partnering for
I
certified.
think the signage and the border is gonna be very important, but also the do's and don'ts of what goes into it.
We're also looking at possibly using size requirements to kind of keep things to a certain size.
Yeah, we're still studying it, but we'll bring you back what we think is a solution to all these issues. It's a balancing act for sure. And then I think also the really cool opportunity, you're seeing it throughout our city already, but allowing Stacy the ability to say, these are no-mo zones in these riparian areas, and, we would also sign them. She's already doing it now, but, expanding that in some areas that would be non-impactful and,
Right.
to
I know
adjacent
something has to be
neighbors.
done because our bee population it's dwindling fast. And being a novice as far as all that stuff, looking at flowers and plants, like what kind of plant that's actually gonna, attract the right thing.
Many of these are very low water because they're natives. And so that, I think, helps a ton with some of our other initiatives.
Right.
Other questions? Well,
I don't have a question, I really like the develop green event standards. Became our, because every time we have an event, I think of, I see people doing crazy things with what they're throwing away. I think there's a big need for education as well as just, we need to make sure that people know what's the recycle bin, what's that green recycle receptacle for? Because people don't use it correctly.
Mandy, I've just got a few small things here. Some trends I've been seeing out in the space. No mow May, no mow April. I don't know if you've seen anything like that. But like when that first blush of flowers and growth come out, not to mow it down immediately. Have you been looking or seeing any movement in heat pumps getting away from the AC units and maybe moving more towards the heat pump. A couple of states are actually starting to mandate that for their municipal facilities. I think Washington State just did it, and I know they're a very different geography and whatnot, different politics as well. But yeah, as we all know that ACs are built every year, they have mandatory requirements to upgrade, and what I'm hearing is that heat pumps are really kind of the only way you keep improving beyond a certain SEER point, so. I love the QR codes. I have a concern with QR codes because they are an effective way to load malware onto people's devices, and so there can be some hesitancy. So I would encourage you guys to look at making sure that there's a URL that they can manually input, as opposed to just a QR code, to have both of those options. Fort Worth Main Street Arts Festival has water stations and encourages people to bring water bottles. I've always loved that, so to piggyback on Bob's. And then the last bit is I want to go bigger on the composting. Carrollton's mayor, Steve Babick, has just been elected. My intent is to have a meeting with Farmers Branch, Carrollton, and ourselves, because we're all invested in that landfill that's here. And if there's an opportunity there to get the three communities to create something that's a little bigger, I think we need to try and go for it. So we'll have that conversation, but I love the composting. Is Fort Worth still doing their bucket system? Okay, so that's all I have.
I did have a comment on micromobility too. I know we definitely need the policy. I have been impressed up to this point with the fact that the scooters that are out there are not just, they're not laying on the ground. They seem to be, parked properly and out of the, traffic areas and things like that. So I saw 4 of them just coming driving in this evening, so.
Yeah. That wasn't the way it was beginning back in 17, 18, when they were just kind of piled everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
That
Now,
was what
is there anything, I know that the Zoom or whatever they're called out there, they have something, for us older people that on 2 wheels that we will wipe out and break something?
There are other options. I know in Austin, they have them it almost looks like a little mini bike, but it's still considered a scooter and you sit on it, that are a little bit less.
More stable?
Yes.
That would be,
Speedy.
I've thought of that because I've seen the scooters and I think, boy, I'd like to be able to use that, but.
There's a big but.
I know where I would, yes.
Or there will be.
And it would hit the ground. So, anyway, but no, I at this point, I've been impressed with the way that people have been. I haven't seen anybody riding one.
I have.
Oh,
When we left the chamber, the plaza, in the parking lot, the kids, they were older kids, they were having the best time. I said, look, that's good, clean fun. They were having the best time. Doing things I would kill myself, but I was impressed.
Well, I think you've got some marching orders. Any other clarity you need from us?
No, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate the update.
Thank you.
Great stuff. All right, workshop item C, discussion of code revisions related to tree preservation and Tree City USA recognition. We have our planning manager, Michelle Berry, and our director of Parks and Recreation, Stacy Anaya, here to present.
Hello, yes. Okay, so we presented an update on the code overhaul a while back, and we got some feedback related to trees, so that's why we kind of brought the tree mitigation ordinance back as it relates to the code overhaul. So just the items we're going to cover tonight is the authority to regulate tree preservation and mitigation, an analysis and consideration of removing building footprints, easements, and right-of-way exemptions from the proposed Unified Development Code. And then Stacey's going to talk to you a little bit about the Tree City USA required amendments to tree preservation, and those are mostly to publicly owned trees. But the authority to regulate tree preservation is based on having a rational nexus to a public benefits. And so ours is that trees are good for improving water quality, recharging groundwater, controlling erosion dust, abating noise, improving air quality, provision of oxygen, sequestering carbon, reducing the urban heat island, reducing building energy costs, enhancing property values, and providing wildlife habitat. So there's a number of various benefits for trees, and that's all listed in our purpose statement in the code. In addition, there's a number of literature out there, studies, reports, reviews of the literature that show these benefits of trees. So we have that rational nexus. And then the second portion is rough proportionality. We want to make sure that what we're requiring of developers is roughly proportional to the impact of removing the trees. And so we know the benefits of trees are generally tied to the size of the tree, which is all generally related to the diameter at breast height. It's the standard measurement that's used. It's about 4.5 feet off the ground, the diameter of the tree. It relates generally to the size of the canopy and the spread of the roots, which are all where we get those tree benefits from. So we want to base our mitigation fees on the size of the tree. They currently are roughly based on the size of the tree. It's, you know, if the tree is 5 inches to 9 inches, there's a certain fee. If it's 10 inches to 14 inches, there's a certain fee. However, a 9-inch tree is going to have more benefits than a 5-inch tree. So we want to make sure that as we move forward, we amend those fees. We propose to base them on the average cost to replant by caliber inch. There is going to be variation by species and size, but we can generate an average to calculate what the fee would be. And we want to delegate to the Parks and Recreation Director to set that fee annually based on the cost of buying and planting. And I've heard some rumors that the COG is looking at doing kind of a purchasing agreement to look at trees and planting materials, so maybe that could be a data point for us as well. And then we also want to allow an option for the developer to do a third-party appraisal of trees. If they think that our fees aren't proportional to the trees that are on their site, they could have a third party come in, a certified arborist, appraise the trees, and we would accept whatever number that certified arborist gives us as long as they're using formulas established and published by the International Society of Arboriculture. So there's some sort of rigor there. So our current, just to kind of summarize, our current regulations, we require tree mitigation for 13 species of trees if they're over 5 inches diameter breast height. We're changing that. We're going to require tree mitigation for all trees, but at 8 inches. So it's a slightly bigger tree, but it includes a lot more species. We are going to exempt from that bodarks, cottonwoods, hackberries, Chinese pistache, junipers, mesquites, pears, and anything that our Parks Director determines is to be invasive. Currently, we provide some location-based exemptions is what I'm referring to them as. So that's an exemption for if you're putting your building here, you're exempt all those trees in the building footprint or the drive aisles or the easements. So what we're looking at with these revisions based on the comments we got back from the council last time is taking out some of those location-based exemptions. So there'd still be the exemptions for certain species that we just don't consider to be protected. It still would not apply to any developed single-family lots, duplex lots. Existing right-of-way and easement areas still be exempted from it, and any dead or diseased trees would be exempt. So if it's a dying tree, we're not going to make you mitigate that. But we would take out the exemption for anything within the building footprint or within a future right-of-way or easement. The logic being those trees are still providing a value, and there's choice in how we arrange the building and the footprint and these types of things. We would be giving credits for all the landscaping that they plant on the site. So they would get a credit for every inch of tree that they plant that's required landscaping. They'd receive a 2-inch credit for each 1 inch of preserved post oak or blackjack oak. The reason for that additional credit for those trees is they're native species in the Cross Timbers Forest, and we're part of the Cross Timbers ecoregion. They're also really hard to replant. You can't just go to a nursery and buy them because they have very sensitive root systems, so it's much harder to just go buy those and plant them. But they are native species here as well. And we'd give the developer a 1-inch credit for every 1 inch of other preserved protected tree that they have on site. So I have 3 case studies that I'm going to go through, and I provided the numbers based on our current code, our original draft, and then the revisions where we're excluding the additional exemptions. So the first site is Innovative IDM, and some of you might remember this site when it came for development. This was a heavily forested site. It had a lot of post oak trees, had a lot of smaller post oak trees. And so looking at our current code, they were required to protect and mitigate for 3,292 inches. There was no credits given. The fee for that was $240,000. As we originally drafted this code, a lot of those inches were no longer considered protected because they were 5, 6, and 7 inch trees. It was a forest. There were a lot of smaller trees in there. So the mitigation credits they received for preserving the trees they did preserve and planting the landscaping they planted was 1,472 inches. So their net mitigation was about 1,000 inches. If we assumed a fee of $150 per caliber inch moving forward, if that's the fee that we land on assessing what it costs us to plant a tree, that cost would then be $164,700. Now, if we take out the building pad exemptions, you can see the protected inches removed goes up substantially to 3,628 because all of those trees are now protected inches that need to be preserved. They're still given the same amount of credits for what they preserved and planted, but their total mitigation requirement is 2,000 inches. That's still less than under our current code because they got the credits. But the fee would be higher based on changing our fee to be a per inch fee rather than this range of tree costs this much, this range of tree costs this much, and upping it to more accurately reflect some of the prices that we're seeing. And that $150 is not set, that's just fill-in for the time being.
Michelle, is that what other cities are doing? It's the cost to replace the tree, and we've not been doing that in the past, but.
Yeah, so other cities do generally base it on inch, and it is generally based on the cost to replace a tree. A lot of cities have it in their ordinances, and I have a table I'll pull up in a minute here that shows some of them delegate it to their parks director to be adopted every year, and that's something that we propose to do just so we can keep on trend with current costs.
So if they, I'm used to where they have two options. One, they have an option of replacing the credits with every tree. They can put all the trees back on site. They're good with that, or they just pay the mitigation fee to forestry for whatever it is. So they will have the option of planting trees that would match the credits, right?
Correct, and I'll show you in this example how that could work. So in this example, this is just the aerial, so you can see the pre-development and the post-development of the innovative IDM site. The second example is biosynthesis. This site was very different. This is the site of an old pecan orchard. And so this site had very large trees. All of them were above 20 inches diameter breast height. Under our current code, there was only one tree that was required mitigation of the 49 trees on site. There was only one tree that they removed out of 40 that they removed that required mitigation. So that's 24 inches they were required to replant, or a mitigation fee of $1,500. As originally drafted, there would have been 360 inches that they would have been required to mitigate or preserve. They would have gotten credits though for 402, and that includes what they put in for landscaping and also what they preserved on site, so they wouldn't have had any mitigation fees. Now, if we take out the exemptions for the building pad, a lot of these trees did fall in the building pad. You can tell it's really big. It took up a large portion of the site. So now the trees that require mitigation are 928 inches. They're still given 402 inches of credit for the trees they saved and the trees they planted. And then their additional mitigation in inches would be 526 inches. And that would equate to a fee of about $39,500. We've let developers plant their mitigation inches by either adding additional trees to the site or upsizing the trees as they're planting them from 3-inch trees to 6-inch trees or something like that. So you could do either way. And here's the aerial of the pre-development and the during development, so you can kind of see what that looks like. And then the last example is site landscape phase 2. There was only one tree on site. It was removed. There were no other trees on site. Because it wasn't in the building pad, they were required to mitigate it. So it was one 36-inch tree and it was a $2,000 mitigation. In our original draft and in our proposed removing the exemption for the building, it's the same since it's not in the building. So it's 36 inches removed. However, with their landscape plan, they are proposing to plant 42.5 inches of trees, so they don't have to do any mitigation. They're given the credits. So in here you can see the aerial on the proposed landscape plan. Our aerials haven't captured that construction yet, but they will be planting a number of trees on the site. And so just to kind of show us where that lines up with other cities in our region, I do have this table that I prepared. And most cities do have either 6 or 8 inches as the size for a protected tree. I think 6 is probably the most common, followed by 8 inches. Most cities do say all species are preserved and then exclude a certain list of what they've determined to be invasive or not deemed worthy of protection. The cities that do just list the protected trees have 29, 30, 50 different species of trees, which is very different than our list of about 13 species of trees we have currently. Most cities do not give exemptions for driveways, building pads, and easements. The ones that do are Plano and Mesquite. I'll move this over so you can kind of see. So Plano and Mesquite do give exemptions for those location requirements. Pretty much everyone treats residential the same as commercial. Most cities give some kind of credit based on what's preserved or what's planted. There's a lot of different ways people give those credits, though, if you read their ordinances. Some of them get very complicated. I don't want us to adopt anything terribly complicated because I want it to be fairly easy to review and enforce. So inch per inch and then double inches for post oaks is something that's pretty manageable for us. But some cities have sliding scales, and those are a lot of times larger cities that have, you know, a tree person on staff. That his job is to review those and enforce those.
Tree mitigation board.
Yes,
Yeah.
different things like that.
One of our neighbors has that.
And then for tree mitigation fees, our fees right now are $500 to $2,000 depending on the size of the tree. And like I said, like a 5-inch tree to a 9-inch tree is $500, a 10-inch tree to a 14-inch tree is $1,000, so on and so forth. Most cities just say it's X dollars per inch. So a lot of those range from $100 to $200 per inch. There's a lot of people who've got 100, 125 set by the director annually, but I couldn't find out what it was this year. So you can see there's a little bit of variation there, but generally they're based on trying to replant those inches that were removed.
Can you explain what tree equity score is, just so they understand what that is?
Yeah, so the Trust for Public Land and the Park Serve tool added a tree equity score on there, and it's basically looking at how is the distribution of trees, is that equitable? And I thought it was kind of an interesting number, and they're looking at tree canopy coverage in a very broad sense. It's not a very specific analysis, but kind of looking at the different tree equity scores. Louisville's came in at 86. There's a lot of Metroplex comparison cities that are in the 80s or low 90s. I just thought that was an interesting thing to kind of start as we consider looking at trees. I was also trying to see what cities around us had estimated their overall tree canopy coverage to be, since that's something we're probably going to look at a little bit more as we move with the healthy infrastructure plan. Not a lot of cities had anything that I could find on their websites. Fort Worth had theirs published at 18%. They said their goal was 30%. For other cities, I could find what it was, but I didn't necessarily see a goal that was out there, but I thought that was kind of interesting information as well.
And Dallas gets the benefit of the Great Trinity Forest.
They do, yes.
So, yeah.
And we get the benefit of Leland.
We get the benefit of Leland. So.
And 30% is a number you'll hear a lot from different groups as a kind of goal for urban areas, especially if they're from a originally forested area. If you're in a desert region, 30% is probably not reasonable.
30% mesquite is still not great.
But with that, that's my presentation. I'm here for any questions or feedback or direction.
I appreciate you guys taking this and looking at it, and I find it interesting that we seem to, with these changes, seem to actually line up better with the majority of our peer cities. I do think that this is, you know, as always, this is a negotiation point when we have developers. So I see our neighboring cities and what sometimes folks have to go through. I really appreciate the simplicity that you're trying to bake into this, because there's no reason to go through another board to get a development done because of trees. So,
Mayor, I'd like to take y'all into closed session under the Texas Government Code Section 551.071, Consultation with Attorney.
do we want to do that first, or did you have a?
Yeah, so she wants to do that first, and then Stacy has a few more slides left after that.
Super. We are going to move into closed session.
In the Tree City USA for the last 28 years. We're one of the longest standing in the region. And the requirements have really been for that designation is that we have some sort of tree board, or the parks, our department that oversees tree, and we've designated the Parks and Recreation Department for that, that we have some sort of community tree ordinance. In the past, it really just meant, did you have the word tree mentioned in your ordinances, and they would give you the thumbs up, right? So we've got that, you know, some minor stuff in place, but we really don't have anything that says this is what our public tree ordinance is and how we will take care of it. You also get it by spending at least $2 per capita on maintaining our urban forestry. We do this not only with what we spend as a department, but also what Keep Louisville Beautiful gets in the ground through grants and such, and then also what in the past what Encore spends on how they, you know, take care of trees near lines. We also do it by celebrating Arbor Day, doing proclamations, tree plantings, and events. And educational activities, which we worked through with KLB. In February, we were notified by the Arbor Day Foundation that they were making some up in the game in terms of how we could qualify or continue to qualify for the Tree City USA. We would need to have a tree ordinance that met 3 thresholds, that we would assign and delegate authority over public trees officially to someone like myself or our Keith with the Public Services Department, that we would provide clear guidance for planting, maintaining, or removing public trees, and that they would be in effect permanently, not on a temporary basis. And so some of the stuff that we're putting in and recommending in Chapter 6 will help us meet that, but we're also looking to maybe update a little bit of what will be in Chapter 13, Article 3. And Michelle and I have talked, and we haven't gone through legal with this yet, but we want to make sure that y'all are on board as we start working through with them, is modeling it after Richardson's ordinance and the Arbor Day guidance for care of trees on public property. And so essentially what we'd be doing is making sure that we delegate authority over public trees to the Parks Director with coordination with the Public Services Director, that we create a tree board, and that's mainly consisting of key staff members that would oversee public trees, and then also oversee the application and participation in the Tree City USA program, and then also just move forward our guidelines for planting and preserving and removing trees on public property, and what kind of offense it would be if someone failed to follow our plan or didn't get our permission to do so.
So with that, this is, our whole presentation is just, our recommendation is to remove tree mitigation exemption for the new right-of-way, new easement, and building footprint area. Michelle told you that already. Add language to add proportionality. That was early on, we had talked about, you could have an arborist, developer could hire an arborist to do that, and challenge our proportionality, and we would look at that. We would make those fee changes that we discussed, and then make the necessary changes to maintain our Tree City USA requirements.
Council? Everybody comfortable with that? Yep. All right. Thank you, team. Appreciate it.
Here we go.
All right. It is 7:02 p.m. Monday, May 16th, and I'm calling this regular session of the Lewisville City Council to order. We do have a quorum. If you would, please stand. Councilman Meredith, would you mind leading us in invocation?
Please join me in a moment of silent contemplation. Thank you.
Councilman McCabe.
Please join me in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Welcome, and here we have regular session item C, consideration of items relating to the May 7th, 2022 City of Lewisville City Council General Election. Item C1, the canvass of the election returns for the City Council General Election. City Secretary?
Mayor and Council, I'll read the results. For place number 4, Brandon Jones received 2,354 votes. For place number 5, Kristen Green received 2,335 votes. For place number 6, Patrick Kelly received 2,122 votes, and Tom Cottrell received 789 votes. That would make Patrick Kelly the winner of place number 6.
Council, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution declaring the election results. And we've got a motion?
Second.
And a second. Council, if you please vote. Motion's approved, 4 to nothing. Thank you, Council. I think we now have our municipal court judge.
Mayor.
Yes?
You need to do the presentations, the certificates of election, and the municipal judge will need to do the oaths of office.
Right. So I have certificates of election here for Councilmember Jones and for soon-to-be Councilmember Kelly. So I need to present those, and then we need to have the oath of office. And do I have Judge Holman? Where? There he is, right over there. So if y'all would mind joining me up at the front. Mr. Kelly? I just do that for fun. All right, and I have two certificates of election to certify that Patrick Kelly, at the general election held in the city of Lewisville, Texas on the 7th day of May, 2022, by virtue of having received a majority of the votes cast, has been elected council member place number 6 of the city of Lewisville, Texas, was on the 16th day of May, 2022, certified by a canvass of the vote by the city council of the city of Lewisville, Texas. Now, therefore, by reason of the provisions of the city charter and ordinance of the city of Lewisville, Texas, you are hereby notified to qualify as the law directs for the said office of councilmember place number 6 of the city of Lewisville, and therefore to enter upon the discharge of your duties in accordance with the law and as such case made and provided. As witnessed by my hand and the seal of the city of Lewisville on the 16th day of May, 2022. Mr. Kelly, congratulations. Now go swear. All right. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name. I, Patrick Kelly. Do solemnly swear. That I will faithfully execute. The duties of the office. Of city council place number 6. Of the city of Louisville. State of Texas. And I will. To the best of my ability. Preserve, protect, and defend. The Constitution and laws of the United States. And of this state. And the charter and ordinances of this city. I furthermore solemnly swear. That I have not. Directly or indirectly. Paid, offered, or promised to pay. Contributed nor promised to contribute. Money or thing of value. Or promised any public office or employment. As a reward. For the giving or withholding a vote. For the giving or withholding a vote. At the election. At which I was elected. So help me God. Congratulations. Would you like to say a few words? Real quick. You got it.
So this was a long journey. I wanted to thank my wife, my family sitting in the back there for their help and the support. My wife was out every day helping do poll greeting. My kids support. Steve was my partner in crime, figuratively speaking, in Castle Hills on a water board compared to my 1B water board. Anyway, I just want to thank the city and in general, and very excited to be serving. Thank you.
I also have the pleasure to announce the certificate of election for certifying that Brandon T. Jones at the general election held in the city of Lewisville, Texas on the 7th day of May, 2022, by virtue of having received a majority of the votes cast, has been elected council member place number 4 of the city of Lewisville, Texas, and was on the 16th day of May, 2022, certified by a canvass of the vote by the city council of the city of Lewisville, Texas. Now, therefore, by reason of the provisions of the city charter and ordinances of the city of Lewisville, Texas, you are hereby notified to qualify as the law directs for the said office of council member place number 4 of the city of Lewisville, and therefore to enter upon the discharge of your duties in accordance with the law in such cases made and provided. Witnessed by my hand and the seal of the city of Lewisville this day, the 16th day of May, 2022. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name. I, Brandon Jones. Do solemnly swear. That I will faithfully execute. The duties of the office. Of city council place number 4. Of the city of Lewisville. State of Texas. And I will. To the best of my ability.
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state, Charter and ordinances of the city. And I furthermore solemnly swear that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, or promised to pay, contributed, nor promised to contribute any money or valuable thing, or promised any public office or employment as a reward for the giving or withholding of vote at the election which I was elected. So help me God. Congratulations.
Being that I'm an accountant, I'll be quick. I want to thank the voters who elected me to be in office for one more term. I'm very appreciative of it. I'm appreciative of our staff that make us look good and keep us going in the right direction. So thank you very much.
Item D, presentation. We have certificates of appreciation for the graduating teen court seniors and presentation of teen court scholarships. I am up here for presentation of the certificates, and I think Sonia Holmes, teen court coordinator. Sonia, I'm going to need your help. Would you mind letting the audience know a little bit about teen court and all the stuff that who we're here to recognize, what they've been up to?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sonia Holmes. I'm the juvenile case technician here for the city of Lewisville. I'm glad to be here tonight with y'all. The program is a great program. I've been doing this for quite some time, and I've enjoyed it throughout the years. It is a program designed for juveniles, for teens, that receive citations in the city of Lewisville or other cities along Texas. And the program has helped to design juveniles listen to other juveniles' cases, and then they assess punishment for that juvenile. If they successfully complete it, then it doesn't go against their record, so it stays clean and it's wiped out. So I'm here tonight to appreciate all the volunteers. These are volunteers that came and listened to their peers, teens, get citations. So we're here to appreciate y'all for the hard work.
So what I'm going to ask is, in a moment, I'm going to read off the names that are on these certificates of appreciation. If you would come up here, love to shake your hand, and if you would stay here, because I'm sure somebody would love to get a picture of everyone up here. I'm going to beg forgiveness at the moment because a couple of these names are a little more unique than others, and they're also written in some sort of really fancy font that I'm trying to decipher. So bear with me here. First up, I have Katerina Crespo. Next up, I have Afreen Kazi Syed. Okay. I have Kirthana Nandakavmar. Close? Not here to scold me, so okay, we got it. I've got Shrangvi Pedyam, Anjalya Cherukuri. Was I close? Thank you so much. Appreciate you. I've got Faith Kamau. I've got Shivani Gupta. Suhani Gajera. Preston Roybal. Meredith House. Got that one right. Vanilla Goranra. Okay. Either pronounced it so badly they don't recognize their own name, or I got it. Advika Rajib. And Victoria Wren. All right, well, let's give all of the folks who were here and the folks who were not some appreciation. Anybody have anything to say? You're more than welcome to. Here's your chance. You can be seated. Thank you so much. Really grateful to you all for participating. I think it's important that we understand how our government works, and especially our judicial system. Those tools are things that we can all make available to ourselves and to others, and being able to understand it at such a young age is awesome. So I really appreciate you guys. Take care.
Mayor, Judge Holman needs to announce the Teen Court Scholarship winner also.
We got a scholarship. Judge Holman, my apologies.
No, that's okay. So every year, the last couple of years, because of obvious reasons, we haven't awarded a scholarship to our teen court, through our teen court, but we try to award a scholarship to a graduating senior, those who are heading on to college. And so we had several applicants this year, and we have not announced that the award winner yet, so I'm going to do that right now, and they'll be surprised just like you will be. This person has served in teen court for 4 years. So beginning when they are first allowed to, basically, as a freshman in high school, this person started serving. They learned about teen court through a tour with their Girl Scout troop. So Preston, I think that you're not a Girl Scout, so I'm sorry about that. This young lady was the benefit of teen court to her was that she learned about public speaking, and she learned to have confidence in public speaking. She also learned to be able to stand in front of a group and be able to stand in front of a large group and not be too nervous. She also, one of the things that I think is very important is that she learned empathy for people, that she served as an advocate for someone who got in trouble. This person plans to study medicine, and she plans to either go to UT Dallas or UT Austin, and she hopes to be a neurosurgeon one day. So a lot of great things that are on her plate. So please join with me in congratulating Shivani Gupta as our 2022 award winner, Teen Court Scholarship Award winner. Congratulations.
Public speaking, you got your chance.
Now's the time to plug the program.
Yeah, I would just like to thank the Teen Court so much for this opportunity, because I feel like it's very unique to our town, especially in the sense that we are able to interact with our peers and not only see the workings of the judicial system, but also how it impacts people that are just like us. And not only that, but I'd like to thank the entire Teen Court staff and my peers for allowing this opportunity and the support throughout these past 4 years. Thank you.
I think we did have one participant maybe come in a little bit late. Did we want to get a? Shragvi Pendum. Pendium. Shragvi Pendium. Thank you so much. Appreciate your participation. All right, we are moving on to item E, public hearing. So for those of you who were here for the events, you are more than welcome. I know how city council works. If you all, I'm excited that you are all interested in everything on the agenda, but you are more than welcome to depart if you need to for your schedule. So item E is a public hearing, consideration of an, oh wait, is that right? Am I right? Yeah. Public hearing, consideration of ordinance granting a zone change from Old Town Mixed Use 2 District and Office District to Public Use District on approximately 1.035 acres, legally described as portions of lots 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, Block 2, Original Town of Louisville Edition, located at 240 West Church Street, 233 West Main Street, and 247 West Main Street, as requested by City of Louisville, the property owner. The properties at 240 West Church Street and 247 West Main Street are currently zoned Office District. These lots contain the Louisville Visitor Information Center and off-street parking. The city recently removed a building on the 233 West Main Street property, which is currently zoned Old Town Mixed Use 2, and intends to use the property for short-term public parking. Rezoning of the properties to Public Use District provides consistency of zoning across the properties and flexibility for current and future uses. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimous approval 7-0 on April 19th, 2022, and it is recommended that the City Council approve the ordinances set forth in the caption above. Mr. Richard Lutke, our Planning Director, is available for questions. Council, if there is no public comment, and I don't have anything on our list here, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Council, if you please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Council, we'll need a motion to approve the ordinance.
Move to approve the ordinance as in per the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. City Attorney?
This is an ordinance of the Lewisville City Council amending the zoning ordinance by rezoning approximately 1.035 acres, legally described as portions of lots 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, Block 2, Original Town of Louisville Edition, located at 240 West Church Street, 233 and 247 West Main Street, from Office District and Old Town Mixed Use 2 District zoning to Public Use District zoning, correcting the official zoning map, preserving all other portions of the zoning ordinance, determining that the public interest and general welfare demand the zoning change and amendment therein made, providing for repeal or severability, a penalty, and an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
Council, if you'd please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Public hearing item 2, consideration of an ordinance granting a special use permit for a minor automobile service facility with 5 associated alternative standards and 2 associated variances on approximately 0.27 acres legally described as Lot 20, Block D of Rolling Ridge Edition, located at 685 South Stemmons Freeway, zoned General Business District, as requested by Raouf Riz Auto Service, LLC, on behalf of Realty Income Corporation, the property owner. Case number 22-02-3-SUP. Riz Automotive Services is a minor automotive service shop looking to occupy the existing building at 685 South Simmons Freeway, which was previously a Midas Auto Repair Shop. The new business performs automotive services such as oil change, tire replacement, and other light mechanical repairs. The proposed use only repairs vehicles inside the establishment and will not store customer cars outside of the building outside of business hours. The applicant is requesting a special use permit and the following alternative standards to the Interstate Highway 35E Overlay District's transition sub-district requirements. A, to waive the 12-foot wide secondary walkway. B, to allow a masonry veneer in lieu of required 80% brick or stone building material requirement. C, to waive the 50% awning requirement along the front facade. D, to waive the 20-foot landscape buffer requirement along Interstate Highway 35E, and E, to allow 1 parking lot tree in lieu of the required 3. The applicant is requesting the following variances to Chapter 6 of the Louisville Code of Ordinances. A, to reduce the required stacking depth of 40 feet to 28 feet, and B, to allow a 6-foot board-on-board screening fence between the commercial and residential uses in lieu of required masonry screening wall. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimous approval 7-0 of the SUP on May 3rd, 2022. The Overlay Board unanimously approved 7-0 one alternative standard related to street trees and recommended unanimous approval of the 5 remaining alternative standards on May 3rd, 2022. It is recommended that the City Council approve the ordinance, the 5 associated alternative standards, and 2 associated variances as set forth in the caption above. Mr. Ludke is available for questions. I do have Raouf at 685 South Stemmons available for questions and, of course, is here to support this motion.
Mayor, it's my understanding, as stated before, there was no residents had a problem with this. They were all in favor of it.
That is correct. We did not receive any comments from any surrounding neighbors except for the letters of support that we received in your packet.
All right, I'll entertain a motion. If there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close public hearing. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Motion passes 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve the ordinance.
Move to approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption, the five associated alternate standards and the 2 associated variances as set forth in the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. City Attorney?
This is an ordinance of the Lewisville City Council amending the zoning ordinance by granting a special use permit for a minor automotive service facility on approximately 0.27 acres, legally described as Lot 20, Block D, Rolling Ridge Addition, located at 685 South Stemmons Freeway and Zone General Business District, providing for repeal or severability, penalty, and an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
Council, if you please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you for being here, sir. Item 3, public hearing, consideration of public input for the Community Development Block Grant 2022 through 2027 Consolidated Plan. The 2022 through 2027 Consolidated Plan is required by Department of Housing and Urban Development and is the primary planning document guiding the use of federal funds for housing and community development. In addition to economic and demographic information about Louisville, it includes discussions on housing needs, community development needs, homeless needs, anti-poverty strategy, and geographic distribution and targeting. The consolidated plan then identifies goals and priorities in a format prescribed by HUD. Public participation includes this public hearing, a survey that opened May 2nd, 2022, public meetings on May 7th, May 12th, May 16th, June 2nd, a second public hearing on May 16th, and a 30-day public comment period. HUD requires the city to consider all public comments. It's recommended that the City Council hold the public hearing and consider public input for the draft Community Development Block Grant 2022 through 2027 Consolidated Plan. We do have Mr. Chris McGinn, Director of Neighborhood Inspection Services, and Maureen Milligan, National Development Council, available for questions. Council, if there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
If you would please vote. Public hearing is closed, 5-0. Item F, Visitor Citizens Forum. Speakers must address their comments to the mayor rather than to individual council members or staff. Speakers should speak clearly and state their name and address prior to beginning their remarks. Speakers will be allowed 5 minutes for testimony. Speakers making personal, impertinent, profane, or slanderous remarks may be removed from the meeting. Unauthorized remarks from the audience, stamping of feet, whistles, yells, clapping, and similar demonstrations will not be permitted. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the City Council is restricted from discussing or taking action on items not listed on the agenda. Action can only be taken at a future meeting. City Secretary, I only have a comment card for item 13. Is there anything?
That's correct. We've received no other cards, Mayor.
All right. We will move on to the consent agenda. All right. All of the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the council and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so request. For a citizen to request removal of an item, a speaker card or e-comment must be filled out and submitted to the city secretary. Council, these are items G 4 through 10. If there is no comments to remove, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, if you please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Item 11, regular hearings. Consideration of an ordinance approving an amended and restated service and assessment plan for Josie Lane Public Improvement District and declaring an emergency, and consideration of a resolution approving a First Amendment to the Josie Lane Public Improvement District reimbursement agreement and enacting other provisions relating thereto. A public hearing on this ordinance, which approves the amended and restated preliminary service and assessment plan for the Josie Lane Public Improvement District, was held at the City Council meeting on March 21st, 2022. Approval will permit the change to the beginning collection date for the Phase 2 West assessments to commence with tax bills due January 31st, 2023. The amended and restated service and assessment plan received final approval by the City Council on April 18th, 2022. In order to allow for the timely filing of the amended and restated assessment plan with Denton County within 7 days of approval by City Council, the city will need this subsequent approval of the amended and restated service and assessment plan at the May 16th, 2022 City Council meeting. An amendment to this reimbursement agreement is also required to conform to the changes in the amended SAP to reflect the change to the beginning collection date for the Phase 2 West assessments. The changes brought forth in this amendment and restated service and assessment plan do not change the amount committed by the city to the Josie Lane PID. It is recommended that the City Council approve the ordinance and resolution as set forth in the caption above. Council, if there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the ordinance as amended and the resolution, the associated resolution.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a second?
Second.
City Attorney, if you please.
This is an ordinance approving an amended and restated service and assessment plan for Josie Lane Public Improvement District and declaring an emergency.
Council, if you please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Item 12, consideration of an ordinance of the City of Lewisville City Council amending Chapter 6, Article 5, Public Improvements of the Lewisville City Code by deleting and replacing subsection 6-91B, adopting the Public Works Construction Standards 2017 edition, as published under the authority of the North Central Texas Council of Governments as the standard specifications of the city, providing for a repealer, severability, a penalty, and an effective date, and declaring an emergency. The version of the North Central Texas Council of Governments Construction Standards with associated amendments currently in use by the City of Lewisville was published in October 2004. The City of Lewisville adopted the 2004 edition of the North Central Texas Council of Government Standards on May 5th, 2007. Over the last 15 years, there have been changes in the construction industry that necessitates updating construction codes. Although staff has kept up with all the changes and revisions to the 2004 edition of the Council of Government Standard Specifications for Public Works Construction, it is in the city's best interest to formally adopt the most current edition, which is the 2017 edition of the Public Works Construction Standards. The North Central Texas Council of Governments Public Works Construction Standards, along with the City of Lewisville standard details, serve as the standard construction specifications for the city's engineering and development projects. Most consultants and developers assume that the city uses the most recent version of the North Central Texas Council of Government Standards rather than the 2004 edition, which has caused confusion when determining which specifications to follow. It is recommended that the City Council approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption above. Council, if there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve as set forth in the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. City Attorney?
This is an ordinance of the Lewisville City Council amending Chapter 6, Article 5, Public Improvements of the City of Lewisville, of the Lewisville City Code by deleting the subsection 6-91B and replacing with a new subsection 6-91B, adopting the Public Works Construction Standards 2017 edition as published under the authority of the North Central Texas Council of Governments as the standard specifications of the city, providing for repealer, severability, a penalty, and an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
Council, if you please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Item 13, consideration of a variance to the City Code, Section 6-91B, construction standards, and a bid award for the West Corporate Retaining Wall Replacement Project to Thomas 11 Development LLC, Dallas, Texas, in the amount of $357,039.32, and authorization for the city manager or her designee to execute the agreement. A total of 32 bid invitations were downloaded from Bonfire. 6 bids were received and opened on March 24th, 2022. The project consists of replacing a failing retaining wall along the south side of West Corporate Drive with a concrete cast-in-place retaining wall, as well as the adjacent sidewalk and concrete drainage flume. The sidewalk replacement will include construction of an ADA-compliant sidewalk ramp at the intersection of West Corporate Drive and Amherst Drive. A related variance is also required to use the 5th edition of the North Central Texas Council of Governments Public Works Construction Standards. Funding for this project is available through the Concrete Improvements Capital Improvement Project. It is recommended that the City Council approve the variance and bid award and authorize the city manager or her designee to execute the agreement as set forth in the caption above. I do have a request to speak on this issue in support by Miss Ann, and Ann, I am so sorry. I'm gonna get this name a little bit wrong because there's multiple syllables in here. If you would, and I'm not even going to try, I'm going to have you tell me. But if you could state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Annie Dovgilevich.
Dovgilevich. Next time I'll get it right. Thank you, Ann.
Well, good evening, Mayor, council members. This is an honor for me to be here before you for the first time. This is an issue that has been kind of in the making for over 20 years. I live at 2079 Terra Court, and it's at 75067. It's between Corporate and Edmonds Lane. I've been a resident for 28 years. I've been an active member with Parkway Elementary School, with the CCA, and with the Salvation Army Food Pantry, and currently with Founders Classical Academy, working in their library, helping them establish that. Excuse me, I'm a bit nervous about this today because I never thought, I got a call this afternoon saying, hey, are you willing to come and talk before the council about this? We moved into this neighborhood, we built this little house back in 1994, and we had a retaining wall that was adjacent to our property. They put a fence up there along that wall, and above that was a forest. And in 1997, they started developing that property, but they left a strip of trees along the retaining wall, and they told us that that was an anchor to help keep the wall up. And so, well, a few days after that, I come home and all the trees are gone. And we were a little bit surprised as a neighborhood that they're leaving this wall. They didn't grade the property level down a little bit. And then we had a rain season, and that rain season caused an enormous, like, just wash of mud from the development above, that the city closed our street down, and there was some drainage issues that they had, and they took a part of that retaining wall and they reconfigured it. They put a concrete wall, but left the rest of it. I have some pictures. I don't know if any of you would like to see them, kind of to see what has happened over the time, and you could see a bit of the concrete wall.
You can set them here if you like. Thank you.
I have continually been calling the city and asking. It's been with the city engineers from the time where Mr. Kumar was involved to David Solomon, I believe is his name. And they would come out, take a look, and that was the last I'd ever hear or see anybody. And this retaining wall, it just keeps falling apart. The part of that concrete that the city did, there's already a crack. If you were to go up to the top where the alley is, you can visibly see that that part is starting to shift towards our property line. They said that, well, this property now is yours and you have to deal with it. That was in the beginning stages when they tore down the trees. We own 160 feet of that retaining wall. That's impossible to repair for us. Especially that it's with those old railroad ties. And from my understanding, when I spoke with Mr. Solomon, he said that they now, I think we'd have to get a request from the Railroad Commission in order to get the railroad ties, which I don't know if we'll be able to get because I think they're trying to configure into something differently. So I'm coming before you and asking if they could take this matter seriously. We really have no use for that little piece of property because above that it belongs to the city. The fence is the city's, the alley belongs to the city. All we're getting is the drainage from it. It keeps pouring into our yard anytime we have a rain day, and that rain just keeps trickling and trickling for days. And it's just destroyed a lot of our property over there. And I'm coming before you to ask to make some kind of improvements. I've talked with my neighbors. I'm basically kind of the ambassador for all of us. Especially the one across from you where you'll see where there's the concrete wall. Their concrete wall is already cracked. So I come before you and I ask you that if you could take this matter seriously and to do something about it. And thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Salmon, is this, she's submitted a few photographs here. Is the intent of this project to repair just the concrete, or is it also going to be repairing the railroad ties that we're seeing?
Mayor, the project we're awarding tonight is actually a different wall, different location.
Okay.
The wall that she's talking about is it's actually shows as a private wall on the platting documents is really the gist of where city staff has arrived with this particular issue. So.
Okay, so this is a different section, so
it's a different
really
location.
not
Yes,
addressable in this particular format, but something we may want to follow up on.
That's correct, sir.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. All right. Council, any other comments? If none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the variance and the bid award and authorize the city manager or her designee to execute the agreement as set forth in the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, if you please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Item I, reports. Reports about items of community interest regarding which no action will be taken. We do have a quarterly investment report from January 1st to March 31st of 2022. Is there any comments or questions on that? Councilmember Jones, if you wouldn't mind leading us off.
I have a couple, well, three things. We have Juneteenth coming up next month, and we have a few events going on around the city. Honoring the legacy will be, and contributing and celebrating our future will be at Westside Baptist Church on Wednesday, June 15th at 7 o'clock. That's something that people can attend. Then the next day at the Grand Theater, there will be a Juneteenth 101, Popular Myths and Forgotten Facts. That will be 7 o'clock, June 16th at the Grand. And on Saturday, there will be a Sounds of Louisville concert. Make sure I got this right, because I tried to, no, on Friday, I'm sorry, June 17th at 7 p.m. at Wayne Ferguson Plaza. Don Diego's band will be there. It's DFW's top jazz band will be there. So you have 3 days of Juneteenth activities to go to. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
That's all you have? I just want to let everybody know out there that our animal shelter is getting quite full. And they have, again, we are having adoption fee waiver for the dogs that are over 20 pounds. So if you want a dog, please don't go buy one from a breeder. We have a whole shelter full of them. And if you've never been there, it's the Jean Carey Animal Shelter. It'll warm your heart. Just go take a tour, walk through, bring a baby home with you, and we'll all be happy. That's it.
Councilmember Meredith?
Yes, Mayor, I've got some library activities for the week. Finals week, study break for teens age 13 to 18, Wednesday and Thursday, May 18th to the 19th, 4 to 6 p.m. No registration required at the Bennett program room. Story stroll, story time for families with children of all ages, Friday, May 20th, 9 a.m. Dragon Park, 2719 Merritt Drive. No registration is required. That's all I have.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, Mayor, I have a number of, excuse me. I have a number of things going on at the Louisville Grand Theater during the next several weeks. First of all, Footloose performances. Footloose, presented by the Christian Youth Theater of Dallas, will be presented on May 20th through the 22nd each evening. Louisville Grand Theater Songwriting Workshop with Bob Livingston, presented by the City of Louisville, is May 21st. And then on the Black Box Songwriter Series, where Bob Livingston will be performing, is presented by the City of Louisville on May 22nd. And as always, Friday nights, the Acoustic Jam Sessions, presented by the Visual Art League of Louisville, in the one of the rooms in the theater. Activities going on in the plaza. We have yoga in the plaza presented by Blue Anju Studios on Wednesdays. Pilates in the plaza presented by Pilates in the City on Thursdays. And then Tai Chi in the plaza presented by Lowell Johnson on Saturdays. And then there are 3 exhibitions going on presented by the Visual League. Well, first of all, Inspired by the Master, which is presented by the Visual Art League of Louisville. That is going on through June 18th. The Cross Timbers Artists, presented by the City of Louisville, through June 4th. And then a Meet the Artist reception for the Cross Timbers Artists, presented by the City of Louisville on May 21st from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. City Attorney, City Secretary.
Nothing, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
No report.
No report, Mayor.
I think we're to the lake level.
Yes, sir. So we're at 522.84, which is about 0.84 feet above the normal pool elevation.
We're gonna need it.
Mayor, Council, I just wanted to mention that our next community meeting will be coming up to take a look at our focus areas for Cdbg funding for our consolidated plan. So it's a large amount of money that we estimate that we'll be receiving in the next 5 years, $3.9 million. And so we'll be on June 2nd at 6:30 p.m. We'll be at the Westside Baptist Church at 900 Bel Air Boulevard, gathering resident feedback on these focus areas. And we also have a survey available for residents in Spanish and English to get survey information from residents that's on our neighborhood services page, Cdbg. So we really look forward to getting additional feedback from our residents. We've already gathered quite a bit of information.
Thank you, Mr. McGinn. Chief?
No report.
Chief?
One thing, Mayor, a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned that Officer Castles won the LISD SRO Officer of the Year. She happens to be here tonight, so I wanted to give you a chance to put a face with a name.
Thank you, sir. Council member. You'll have time for next one. Awesome, awesome. So a couple of quick things. First of all, I wanted to thank the team for the Cdbg messaging that's getting out there. I'm seeing a lot of that on social media and in the news, so very appreciative. For those of you who don't know, Cdbg funding is effectively allows us to keep our tax rate a half a cent lower than we would require to be able to fund the projects that we fund with Cdbg. It's about a half a cent of our property tax that is supplanted by that. So I appreciate you guys being good stewards. I would also like to make sure to recognize a very important person out here in the audience tonight. We have our County Commissioner, Bobby Mitchell, over there, who once sat in this seat. So I have been very consciously making sure I didn't mess up tonight. Thank you, Commissioner Mitchell. Love to see you here. And in addition, I have one more event that I'm hopeful that everybody will join me at on May 21st. So this coming Saturday. We will be at the DCTA Highland Village A train station, Lewisville Highland Village A train station at 8:30 in the morning. Get there by 8. We are having a bike ride. So it'll be the mayor's bike ride. We're going to have the mayor of Denton and Denton residents come down on the train. And then we're going to meet up with the mayor of Corinth and residents in Corinth, and we're going to ride our way up towards Denton. It's going to start at 8:30 again at the Lewisville Lake and Highland Village A train station. It's a lot of fun. It's going to be a good early morning ride, and it's going to go at my pace, which means if you know how to get on a bicycle, you'll be fine. We'll get you there. And the great thing about it is it rides along the A train. So if at any point during the ride you say, you know what, I think I've had enough, I'm going to take the train the rest of the way, you can just pop right on because we have bike racks and everything available. So I would encourage everybody to meet me out there. And again, this is this coming Saturday in the morning. We'll put some more information out on social media, but would love to see you there as a celebration of National Bike Month. With that, I don't believe we have, well, we do have closed session. We have a couple of things. So closed session for in accordance with Texas Government Code Subchapter D, Section 551.072 Real Estate Property Acquisition, Section 551.074 Personnel, discussion of election of Mayor Pro Tem and Deputy Mayor Pro Tem, and Section 551.087 Economic Development Deliberation regarding economic development negotiations. We are going to go into closed session. All right, we are going to reconvene back into regular session. Consider any action. Is there any action to be taken, council?
Yes, Mayor. I would like to move that we appoint Brandon Jones as Mayor Pro Tem and William Meredith as Deputy Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, if you would please vote.
I don't have it up on your screen.
So we're going to vote?
We're going to old school vote
Yeah.
right now.
So council, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motions has it. So thank you, folks, for stepping up to add those Mayor Pro Tem and Deputy Mayor Pro Tem duties. With that, there is no other action to be taken on tonight's agenda, so I will call this meeting adjourned at 7:52 p.m.
Woohoo! Congrats, William.
I think that made the